This reading is for you if you would say that your life is going really well. Really impressively well, actually, in some respects. And especially when you compare your life now to how it was before, it's almost completely transformed, right? You have a lot of fulfillment and comfort and satisfaction and challenge and well-being and happiness and all of the good things that you want. You have a lot of that. That doesn't mean that your life is perfect. And in fact, you are grappling with one or two major challenges. But and this, they might be pretty significant challenges, and they might feel like they have a lot of weight to them, and you might be struggling with these challenges, but it's not really the same sort of challenge that you used to have, because before, your challenges were a lot more like desperate, a lot more vital. They might have been more about your mental health or about physical safety. They were a lot more survival oriented, and they were a lot more intense. So you're no longer in the struggle in that kind of way, and you're no longer in desperation or depression or despair. It's like, and sometimes when you're grappling with your one or two specific challenges, you might think like, I should really be grateful for all that I have. Why can't I just be more settled into my happiness? But it's specifically because you are grappling with this challenge, and it's a big challenge. And the reason it feels so momentous to you, because it's about, I'm hearing like soul's contract. So different ways to think about it, right? You could already know that you have a soul contract to complete something in this life, and it could be related to that. Highly likely this is about your North Node journey. You just know that there is something that you're here to do or to complete or to experience. And that's why this challenge is kind of, it might be creating more emotional intensity within you than you feel is warranted given how good the rest of your life really is. So this reading is for you if that resonates. And I mean, it's like I can feel how like proud you are of how far you've come and how happy you are that your life is so good. and yet I do feel this kind of, I don't want to call it like heaviness, because I really want to distinguish this reading and like this person, this energy from, like, this is such a pivot point. And even doing this reading for this group of people is a pivot point, because in the past, I typically just come to the table and I do a reading, and a lot of the time the energy that is presented to me to read is for people who are really in like deep emotional struggle, who are really deeply in the emotional struggle. That may have been you in the past, but that is not you now, right? You have so much maturity and strength within you that you have cultivated. So you're not in that struggle like you used to be. This is like really you've really already leveled up yourself in this life. You've really already accomplished so much, and you've come so far, and you should be proud of yourself. And then there's just this wiggle about still feeling this sort of pressure or tension associated with this particular challenge. And you might come and go, right? You might feel up and down about it. You might have many wonderful days where you feel like you're just on top of the world, and then you think about your challenge that you're working on, your project or your goal, or the thing that you're seeking, and right? It just So that's what I was trying to say. There is almost this feeling of heaviness here, and it's not even really exactly frustration. It's interesting. It's like these emotions that you have surrounding this are leveled up because you understand now that this experience is a long-term thing, and you have learned patience, and you have transmuted frustration, and you have released despair and petty angers and all of these more like adolescent emotions that, you know, most of us carry well into adulthood. You have already transmuted those to like an almost total, if not 100% extent. So it's not that you're working through that, but there's this feeling of you have been doing so much work. That's actually, I'm sorry, that's like choking me up, the feeling here. How much work you do. It's the feeling of how much you carry and how much work you do. And you do most of it with almost no recognition or gratitude. Maybe some of those who should be grateful don't express their gratitude and they take you for granted. Even if they don't, like, even if if they thought about it, they would think, yeah, wow, we should really, I'm so grateful for you. And, you know, you do so much and we're so grateful for you, but they don't necessarily say that every day, right? And you do so much work behind the scenes, and I mean that like physically you do so much behind the scenes, and whether at work or for your friends or for your family, but energetically the amount of work you do behind the scenes is like it's ridiculous. You do it like a ridiculously absurd amount of work behind the scenes, and I can just feel the weight of this energetic labor, okay? The weight of this energetic labor that you have been doing. Whew. And part of it has been that you have been learning to carry the weight of this energetic labor with maturity, right? To do this labor with maturity. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're not meant to do this labor indefinitely. And in fact, that is going to be the point of this reading. Like the central point is that right now, your biggest initiation is to stop doing so much of this labor. It's like emotional labor that you do for others, like energetic labor, like energy work that you do for others. Yeah. And that's gonna be the key, is to put down. It doesn't even necessarily feel like putting down burdens. It feels like ceasing the emotional, energetic, and executive labor that you do for others. This must, if not entirely cease, it must be massively scaled back, because doing that labor was part of your soul contracts. Could be, karmic contracts that you had, definitely, probably, South Node, like your South Node contract, especially if your South Node was in an Earth sign or an Earth house. You had these contracts to complete that labor because it served and still does serve a purpose. And right now you are working through the process of maturely ceasing the labor. Ace of Cups. There's you like reaching out your hand. I always love this Ace of Cups. It's like somebody like reaching for their coffee. There's literally like a cup here. It looks like a mug of coffee. You might be reaching for the coffee. You might be reaching for that moment when you can finally rest. You might be but it's literally opening your heart inside of you. This is opening your heart. It's like, okay, what I'm seeing is in the Mulan movies, both the cartoon and the live action, this scene is slightly different in both of those versions. I think in the cartoon, when she is carrying the water up the stairs, she's struggling so hard, because she's a girl, but she's carrying the amount of water that the boys can carry, right? The young men who are naturally physically stronger than her, but she is carrying the same amount of water up those stairs. And she's crumbling, but then she just kind of digs deep inside of herself, and through determination she pulls herself up by her bootstraps, and she stands tall and carries on up that mountain. But in the live action version of Mulan, that scene it's different. It's less yang, right? That the cartoon was like the yang version of that, and then the live action version is the yin version, where she's struggling to carry that water up the mountain. And then she has this moment of like zen-like surrender, where she's like, the impression I got from watching that moment was, it doesn't even matter how heavy this is. It doesn't matter how exhausted I am. I'm doing this, right? And she just kind of floats. She just like, her face relaxes, and she puts the water on her shoulders, and she just calmly, like transcendently floats up the stairs. So 2 different ways of kind of coming to the same moment of, I do this, like I can do this. This is what I do. I'm doing this because this is what I do. And so didn't I just say you're putting down the labor? Let me get to that. You're still putting down the labor, but it's like, why haven't you put down the labor completely right yet? And perhaps you have been scaling back the labor that you do. And because there is quite a huge amount of labor for you to be scaling back. It's like almost every area of your life where you put in like just an astonishingly shocking amount of energy that, and you put this energy outside of yourself for others to maintain systems, to maintain other people's emotional well-being, to maintain other people's realities and their worlds, and to help them heal and to help them transform. And then the work you do just to earn money, and to, the errands and the chores and the tasks that you do, all of the things that you do, it's so much energy. It's so much energy that you expend. So hopefully you have already been scaling back your obligations and the amount of energy that you have to give away. But at the time you're watching this video, like if this is really going to resonate, then you're not quite at that moment of cessation, right? You're not quite at that moment of cessation yet. You are still putting in the work and the effort, and you're still doing this emotional and energetic labor. Why? And this question has probably been plaguing you. Why do I still have to do this? Why am I still doing this? And you might wonder, like, why is maybe you have to keep working a job, because you literally need the finances, right? Or maybe you keep having to support someone emotionally or energetically or spiritually because maybe you just can't seem to get yourself out of that scenario, right? So you might be wondering, like, when are these obligations going to end? And also, when am I going to finally like release myself from this? Because a lot of emotional labor happens not because, okay, let me try that again. You have kind of 2 things going on here, right? Some of the labor that you were doing is to meet physical requirements. That is like the labor of a job, or cleaning, or driving your kids around, or looking after an elderly parent, right? These are like things that like physically need happening in your reality, and literally nobody else is going to do them. So you're kind of in the position of you have to physically do these things. That is part of the equation here. But then the other part of the equation is the kind of emotional, energetic, and spiritual labor that you do, even though you don't have to, but it's almost like a compulsion, or you don't know how to stop yourself. Like you keep running other people's energy through your system empathically, and like processing it, and being like a parallel processor for others. And this is like if you do any healing work, definitely related to that, right? This is the emotional work that you do for others. And you're probably already aware that you need to scale that back, but it can be difficult to detangle yourself from that. Especially because doing that work, doing that emotional and energetic work for others is part of why you were here. That is, you have soul contracts related in that area, but it's like those contracts are ending. Like you are literally concluding those contracts right now, whether that's soul contracts that you have or your South Node contract. It's like that. It's like truly being exhausted. And so what I'm trying to emphasize here is that you are completing these these labor-inducing contracts, and you are fully completing the contracts. Like you are completing them to the letter of the letter to the period at the end of the contract. And that also might be confusing for you sometimes, because you might think, why don't I just quit my job? Why don't I just drop everything and get on a plane and bum around, Southeast Asia for a while? Like, why don't I just escape this? Why am I still putting myself through this? Why am I still doing this, right? So part of it is, when will the physical obligations release me? And the other part of it is, when will I release myself, right? And perhaps you've been asking yourself this question for years, and you might even be getting some kind of like upsetting feedback from other people telling you, yeah, just like throw caution to the wind, quit your job, like believe in yourself and manifest, and, a bunch of really well-meaning, encouraging statements that people might tell you. And perhaps you even believe those things, and perhaps you even think that's good advice, and you might even be wondering yourself, like, why don't I just like, burn this life down and start like, go do something else, right? And perhaps you've even done that before, right? Perhaps you've even done that before. So you know that works, right? And you know all about that, and you're not afraid of doing that. But like, why aren't you doing that this time? And so that's what I'm trying to get to here. It's because this isn't like when you were 18 and you could just, do whatever to an extent, right? This is not an adolescent or juvenile arc. And I know those words like literally mean like teenager, but there's something here about, even when we're in our 30s and 40s and 50s, we can still be in those kind of juvenile arcing energies. And I don't care how old you are, really, but I think if this is for you, you're probably at least 30, right? Probably the group of you would be in your 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. But it's because you're truly resolving this all the way. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. You are resolving these contracts and concluding them 100% all of the way, and you are not leaving anything unfinished, and you are not ending this or concluding this or completing this like until it's completely done. So that is why it might seem like a reality is like keeping you in place here, keeping you on this hamster wheel. And that's also why you seem unwilling to some extent to just like burn it all down and leave because you want to do this right. You want to complete this and finish it, and you want to do it in a very adult, mature, and like sane kind of way. Like that is part of the point here. This full, complete resolution of these contracts and this energy and this pattern, so that when it is done, it is completely done. And that's also why I was saying, so for those of you who have your South Node in an Earth sign or an Earth house, or if you have like Saturn involved with your Earth, with your South Node or something, that talks about the total exhaustion of that energy. I mean, the South Node always has to be exhausted in one way or another, but the Earth South Nodes specifically need to be like ground down. It's like a pepper grinder, grind, or like a mortar and pestle. And they need to be completely ground down into sand or into dust, and they need to be, and so it takes longer to do that, right? Like a fire North Node, a fire South Node will burn itself out. An air South Node will just like, waft away. The Earth South Nodes need to really be ground down and to be totally, totally completed. The cool part about that is like once it's ground down into sand, it's not going to become a rock again, right? So you are grinding your South Node contracts or these karmic contracts that you've been carrying for lifetimes. For some of you, it would be like an ancestral contract, and you are grinding this down to total completion. So that is important for you to understand here. So what you are doing, especially if, you know, there's been delays, or if you feel like, am I just delaying myself? Am I being silly? No, you're actually really like, you're instinctively understanding what you're doing here, and that is completing these contracts. The Ace of Cups with the Three of Cups. Doesn't that feel better? The Three of Cups. Oh, so this Three of Cups literally is like the 3 wine glasses, like linking together with this heart. So that brings me back to what I was saying about this opening of your heart. So at the very end here, right? You're at the very end of these contracts that you're grinding down into dust to the very last period of the very last sentence of the very last page, right? There's this like pattern that happens towards the end here, and this is how you can kind of map how close you're getting. You know, you go through what could be a long protracted period of being angry, of being frustrated, of gnashing your teeth, of feeling trapped, right? But that goes away and is replaced almost by not exactly resignation. Resignation is more of that like lower frequency kind of feeling. It's more of this, okay, this is necessary. I am capable of doing this. I don't want to be doing this, but I can do this. And I understand why I'm doing it, so I'm going to continue doing it. Sort of like resignation, but imagine like a higher vibing version of resignation. I don't know, like acceptance, I guess. Just kind of accepting that this is what you're working through right now. And from there, it gets even better. From there, your heart really begins to open up. And it's like this, towards the conclusion of these contracts, is this softening of your heart and this heart opening. Even though, and you might end up in this kind of funky headspace where you think, I'm totally exhausted. I'm totally done with this. I don't even know how I get up every day and do all this. And yet you feel like at the same time, I'm kind of really acclimated to my situation, and I could probably do this indefinitely, even though I won't like it. And maybe in some ways, whatever labor it is that you do every day might even sometimes feel hypnotic, and you probably can still see like the benefits of it. Like, I mean, that's going to be different for everybody, right? But little silver linings in your day that come as a side effect of doing this labor. But this all results in this heart opening. That's why I was trying to use like Mulan as the example of this heart opening. It's like this heart activation, this heart opening that comes at the ass end of exhaustion. When you're past exhaustion and you don't even know how tired you are anymore. You might be thinking, oh, I'm not really that tired. I could use a good sleep, but I'm not really that tired. It's like, no, you're fucking exhausted. You're so exhausted, you don't even know how exhausted you are. You need like an entire year off to do nothing, right? And just work and just focus on whatever it is that you want to be doing day to day, right? You need like a whole year off. But you might be thinking, yeah, you know, I could use like a weekend off. I haven't had a weekend off in a while, but like, you don't even know how tired you are. So it's like this heart opening that comes at the ass end of exhaustion. And you've actually gotten used to the fact that everybody takes you for granted. Nobody really understands what it is that you do. And you just kind of go, okay, well, because you understand where they're at, you understand where they are emotionally, and you understand what they are capable of, you know, sharing with you. So you're just kind of okay with it. And so you've gotten used to doing man, this keeps choking me up so hard. You've gotten so used to doing everything without any recognition or gratitude. And it's like at the ass end of that, there is this heart opening. It's like you are running all of these scripts all of these labors to the total ass end of it. I don't know any other way to put it. To like this extreme absurd end. To the ultimate end. So if you've been seeing the Ten of Swords, and you might be thinking, oh God, it's some kind of like bad thing. No, that's the ass end, okay? From now on, let the Ten of Swords be the ass end of this ridiculously protracted labor, okay? Let the Ten of Swords be the end of it. And this heart opening, and it's hard to describe because maybe you're feeling it, and maybe you know what I mean. Maybe that feeling is just on the other side of the horizon for you, and you'll be feeling it very soon. Like, I mean, like within the next few days or the next week or two at most, right? By the time you get this reading, you're going to know what I mean about this heart opening that happens at the ass end of fatigue. And the ass end of like neglect. And notice how this is not about reaching the end of despair, because you're past the whole despair paradigm. This is really about concluding the end of this labor and this exhaustion and this fatigue. So it's not about despair. It's not about frustration. Yes, you might feel that, like echoes of that sometimes, but really those are the emotions from your previous transformations. This transformation is about fatigue, exhaustion, and not being recognized and being taken for granted. And then, and probably getting a lot of like unhelpful advice and unhelpful guidance. And probably actually maybe not even like hearing your guides and not even receiving the synchronicities, because you're truly going to the end of this initiation alone, because it is something that has to be experienced alone. And that's the sad part, because you're not experiencing this alone. You're linked hand in hand with all of the other souls that are experiencing this with you, right? There is a whole circle of you, the whole like hand in hand experiencing this, doing this together. It's just that you can't see each other. So as your heart opens and you start to understand why you signed yourself up for this, the exhaustion of your South Node, or these karmic contracts, or these ancestral karmic contracts, these ancestral contracts, that's really key, because you want to be fully, finally, completely, and utterly free of those energies. The point of this was to free you from something. By exhausting this energy to the extreme end of absurdity, that is how you free yourself from something. Really, for those of you into the astrology, right, really pay attention to any planet conjunct your South Node. Even if it's, not super tight, if it's tightly conjunct, then that's like really significant. If it's even, several degrees away, still significant. Still same sign, same house, still very significant. Pay attention to those, because that tells you what kind of energy you're trying to exhaust and grind down here. So the heart opening that happens at the end of this exhaustion. And I flip to love. Love. I know this is hard to see. Love with these two open hands, and we literally have a heart shape that has like the human heart organ inside of it. It's both types of heart here. And it's even, this heart is flaming. So it's this heart of fire. That is what you're activating within you. And this type of love is different than the love that you've experienced before. Perhaps you've glimpsed it or seen or like heard echoes of it, felt it partially, but this is not like a soft, fuzzy wuzzy, woo woo type of love. This is not like a spiritualized or mentalized universal love. I love everything because we're all one consciousness. It's like you already know that type of love. There's lots of types of love that you already experience. This is like a really courageous love. It is this love that is fiery and passionate, and it is a love that drives your purpose. And I'm saying love, and that word really doesn't even do this justice, because yes, this can include romantic love. Yes, this can include types of universal love, but it's like this feeling of your heart swelling with clear light. And I'm seeing for some, there is like this grimy, rotten, black heart detritus that's like blasting away. So so lots of differences here. Some of you have already completed massive heart healing in the past. Some of you have even had like almost like you got a new heart, like the energetic equivalent of a heart transplant. Like you healed your heart so massively in the past that your heart is already brand new. And for those of you where that resonates, it's like you are upgrading your heart. You're like bringing your heart, your new heart, you're bringing it fully online. You're bringing your new heart fully online, and upgrading it. It's like you've been acclimating to your new heart possibly for several years. So you're upgrading your heart and bringing it online. Others of you have actually gotten to this point with your old rotten heart. And I don't mean to sound critical. I know it might sound unpleasant if I tell you have a rotten heart. But I mean that I essentially see that a lot with most humans who haven't completed the process of like massive heart healing work. I see that our hearts are largely rotten, and it's not that doesn't mean anything bad about us. It means that we have been through that much shit, right? And our heart has just taken on that much sorrow, right? And it has become that damaged. From heartbreak and the suffering and the struggles, right? So some of you have actually managed to get to this point with your old rotten heart. And I really see this is where the reading kind of splits. For those of you who have already completed the process of healing your heart, and by the way, this is not like a competition, your own heart healing goes exactly the way it's meant to, right? Just like if you were under the care of, doctors, your treatment would be like tailored to you specifically. So your process of heart healing has been tailored to you specifically. So this is not a competition. This is your own specific process of heart healing. So for those of you who you've already healed your heart, largely you've done the bulk of the heart healing work. This awakening to this, I don't know what the word is here, to this, man, I would have called this source energy, this feeling of source energy flowing through your heart. It's this feeling of like clear light exploding from your heart. And how that becomes like an energy source. This is about your heart becoming an energy source, your heart becoming a powerhouse, okay? Your heart powering your life and powering your courage. It's like being lion-hearted, okay? But with this really intense love, and it brings this resilience. It brings this resilience that is like beyond resilience. It's like you are resilient already, like, but this is like beyond resilience. It's the fact of resilience once you no longer need to practice resilience because resilience kind of implies that you're being buffeted by something and you need to kind of survive it, right? This is like, you will no longer feel the wind, or you will no longer feel the cuts, or you might sense them, right? But they will not harm you. You will no longer be harmed by the things you used to have to be resilient towards. Give what I'm trying to say there. Anyway, so for those of you where the heart healing is already completed, and that's where you can really experience this as this just radical experience of not empowerment, because you're already empowered. This is like, so I'm seeing the strength card in my head. This is like, you wake up one morning and you're looking at your problems and your challenges, and you perceive your own fears. And you perceive how your fears have been distorting your perception of reality, and also how your desires and your attachments have been distorting your perception of reality. And suddenly you see this clearly because your heart is beaming this light and it's illuminating everything. Like your heart is beaming this clear light that illuminates everything around you so that you can perceive it all with perfect clarity. And it's like you're going to look at the distortions and the illusions, and you're going to stare reality in the face. And you're going to say, like, next time there's something like it's a fear creeping up, right? You're going to look that in the face and you're going to say, I don't believe you, right? I don't believe you. It's possible you could have reason to say that to a person if they are threatening you with something, or like threatening to do something, right? Assuming that is what you actually believe, right? This is not a contrived statement. This is an honest statement, right? This is an honest statement that you could have. If you're looking at somebody who's maybe in a trauma loop and they are, I don't know, threatening to do something ridiculous, and you're just going to look at them and say, I don't believe you would do that. I don't believe you would do that. Same thing with looking at reality. And you might be thinking, you might be worrying about something collapsing, right? And you're going to look and you're going to go, I don't believe that. I don't believe that anymore. Like, you're no longer going to be threatened by the illusions and the distortions, right? You're no longer going to be threatened by the illusions and the distortions because you're going to recognize them for what they are, because the light of your heart is illuminating your reality. So, I mean, what I just described there, that is really what this is about for everyone, no matter the current state of your heart. But it's like, if the heart healing has already been complete and you're like, then you can kind of rapidly wake up into this. For those of you who, like, this is also your massive heart healing moment, you're kind of getting a double whammy here because you're kind of getting this energetic heart transplant, or like doing this complete transformation of your heart chakra, of your soul's heart, at the same time you're going through this massive initiation. So that is like a massive double whammy. For you guys, I perceive more of like an emotional purge surrounding this. Let me get some cards quickly just for you guys, because that's more of an emotional purge before you get to this illuminated state. Okay, before you get to this illuminated state. The Nine of Cups. Taking a moment to not be tricked by the illusions. Okay, taking a moment to center yourself, not being distracted by your desires, by your attachments, or by your fears, right? The lowest frequencies of the Nine of Cups being wishful thinking. I used to think the highest expression of the Nine of Cups was the wish come true, but now I know that's kind of the middle frequency. The highest frequency, and the one I want to emphasize here, of the Nine of Cups is this declaration. It's a declaration. And this could be very, like, this could come through like a flood of tears. Something you might declare even like while you're sobbing or something, right? This is like you declaring something through a flood of tears. And this is you reaching this moment of clarity about what you want, what you're doing, and who you are. This is coming to this like crystal clear, like it's like looking through perfectly clear water, like the waters of Mintaka. Okay, there's like mermaid energy here. And declaring this. I declare this. And it is through your declaration that you trigger your heart healing, and at the same time undergo this massive illumination. Okay, you undergo this illumination where the light of your heart radiates into your reality and you perceive all things with clean, clear clarity. The wildling. This is what I was just thinking. This is about this is my life and I will pursue it to my fullest ability and to my fullest satisfaction. And this is now, and this is not, okay, the more juvenile manifestation statements. This is not about the law of attraction. This is not about thinking that you can just believe and force something to materialize. Although, of course, belief can play a massive part in your materialization, but that is just like one tool, okay? And you don't even need to use it. You can manifest things that you don't believe in. Like that you don't consciously believe. You can still manifest it. So, you know, it's like you've fully outgrown the attempts at manifesting that they weren't wrong, right? You learned a lot. You learned a lot of little tricks. You learned a lot of different systems. You learned a lot of different schools of thought. No, it's not about any of those things being wrong. It's about them being like developmental. They were things that you were learning while you were in school. And now you're in the real world and you understand more clearly and more comprehensively how reality actually responds to you. You've learned on an individual level how your reality responds to you, and you're understanding how to interact with your own reality. And that's going to be different for every single person that this is resonating for. So with this comes a cleaner and clearer understanding of like the facts of reality, working with reality. And if you feel right now that you still have a kind of there is still like a desire or a hope or an attachment or a fear, right? And how often are our desires really a way of escaping a fear, right? When you really, really want something, is it because you really, really want that, or because you're trying to avoid its opposite, right? You focus on really wanting something because you really don't want the other thing. You don't want the other thing. I don't want to say that you're supposed to get rid of your desires. This is not about, because cultivating monk-like pure non-attachment, that is again not the full picture. That is one of those tools that are now in your toolkit, and it is a specific school of thought, but it is not the be-all end-all. So this is not about becoming completely non-attached, and it is not about purging yourself of desires. It is about not being ruled by fear. It is about not being ruled by fear. There is like a little bit of an ache here still. There is something that you really want, and you want it sooner rather than later, right? And you want it sooner rather than later. So there is that like trauma. You have like time trauma, right? And I've talked about that in readings before. You have trauma about duration. You have trauma about time. You have trauma about things not working no matter what you do. You have trauma about delay, delay, delay. So I think healing that is probably your final piece of work here. And I'm kind of thinking, like, should I go into that? Should I dig on that? Should I get some cards on that? But I don't honestly feel that that's necessary, because I don't actually feel there's anything left for you to do here. Like, this is not, like, you don't need to be bringing up your shadow work. It's like this script is running you to completion. And you're doing it. Like, just see this through. That's all you have to do, is see this through. And as you see this through, this healing surrounding this, like, time trauma, right? Because you're essentially afraid of things taking too long, or you're afraid of there being delays or setbacks. That's what you're really afraid of, and that's why you really want the thing to save you from the delay or the setback or the time, right? But I think your healing on this is already well in hand. So all you need to do is see this through. Like, this has already been written to a conclusion. So wake up every morning or night, whatever time of day you like to wake up. Do what is for you to do. Scale back on things that have that special edge to them, right? So this is where your day-to-day life for the next little bit, right? It's going to be about discerning on a nearly daily basis, okay? You might have to discern every single morning. What do I really have to do? Because I need to see this through, resolve this contract, and, literally pay the bills, or literally help this specific person because they are physically or mentally unable to do for themselves, right? You have to discern, okay, those are my real labors for the day, but then these other things, the things that really make me want to pull my hair out, the things that really make me feel kind of nauseous or just exhausted to the point of I can't do this anymore, right? When you're feeling like I can't do this anymore, or I shouldn't have to do that anymore, I can set a boundary there. I can say no. I can take that off my plate, right? You're having like a daily sifting. You're daily doing this. And so day by day by day, you're in the final sifting process where more and more of the labor is being sifted out, and you're getting so freaking close to the, like, you are literally right now drilling to the bottom of this contract. And it is already written to a conclusion. And that will include any residual healing you have around this trauma surrounding how long things take. So you have this perfectly well in hand. So this reading isn't to tell you to do anything. It is to tell you that you are already doing it, right? You're already doing it. So I love you so much, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.